Oh, and let me get Ron.
Welcome, Steve, and Happy New Year, everyone.
Yeah, same to you, Andrew.
Happy New Year.
So let's see, once, it looks like, is Ron on? I see his name here.
Yes, I'm on.
Okay,
Calling him. Excellent. I was just trying to call him. That was me, Ron. I'm hanging up.
well, it looks like we've got a quorum. So I'd like to call the meeting to order. And Hope, if you could do a roll call for us, that'd be great.
I could, and I can't see everyone, and I'm reading off this list, so just let me know if they're not here. Chair Steve Caro,
Here.
Vice Chair Brent Tregaskis,
Yes, no place
Thank
I'd
you.
rather be.
Treasurer Ron Mitchell, Ron Mitchell. I know we just heard him.
Here.
I'll move.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thanks, Ron. Board member, I don't believe Barb Hart is here, correct?
I don't see her on the list.
Okay, I don't believe she's here. Board member Claudia Schaffler.
Here.
Andrew DeWart.
Here.
Karina Lusher.
Here.
Rhea Ortner. Is Rhea here? Oh, excellent. And Board of Trustee Liaison Jonathan Baumhover.
Here.
Great. So it's just Barb. All
Okay, thank you. The first item here is if there's anybody who would like to say some public comment, I'll give you 3 minutes. And you could just introduce yourself if you're there and wanting to. And I don't hear anybody, so I think we will move on to the consent agenda. Is there any discussion from the board members on the consent agenda, the meeting minutes and the warrants?
Yes, this is Ron Mitchell.
Hi, Ron.
There's a typo in the resolution on page 3, and it says in the motion to approve the moving forward with the purchase of the certificate deposit from Sunflower for $250,000 at the interest rate, and concurrently opening a line of credit for $250,000, not $2,500. And then probably you should say that the fee for opening the line of credit is $2,500. That's all. Minor item.
Yeah, but thank you, especially because it involves the finances.
Thank you, Ron. I'll call you and make that correction tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other discussion on these items, we could do all in favor of passing the consent agenda, say aye.
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 And anyone opposed? I think that passed unanimously. Next up, we have the informational items, and starting with my chair report, I don't have anything for tonight's meeting. Then we have Ron with the treasurer's report. Ron, do you have anything for us?
Everything has been completed with Sunflower Bank as far as the line of credit and the certificate of deposit. I got the last documents today, which I'll be giving to Hope after the meeting. And the spreadsheets that Hope has done so well say it all, so I'm not going to add anything to that. That's all.
Okay, thank you. And Hope, do you have the executive director report?
Yes, and let me just make sure that I can read it. So in my report, I supplied the mill distribution form and the TIF form, as well as the budget expense sheet. I probably have a few things to go through it and make sure everything is correct. I'd also like to thank Rita, the town accountant, for working really I feel very well with me, trying to help make sense of TIF funding and where it should come from, and when the remains of a project are left over, how they go back. So I just wanted to thank big kudos and thank you to her. Stopgap funding, we received the $97,000 earlier in December back into our accounts. I will move that into the TIF accounts. For the reimbursable grant fund, 36 businesses applied, which I thought was really great. Businesses talked about wanting the money to go to other business owners who really needed it. I will be sending in that reimbursement form in the next week or so, so we should receive $59,000 back. In the news, the Stimulus Act, whatever few funds we have remaining from that grant, maybe $2,000, $3,000, we can use throughout the year, but that final report will be due December 30th. There's the agreement. I applied for the economic grant. I'm writing the report that's due on Friday. And once I submit that report, I think they'll let us know that we'll get what I believe is a pretty regular fund of $11,000. Kudos to Claudia and Steve. The resolution 2020-46 passed. Oh, I'm sorry, I left financial policy. That's actually for wayfinding. So phase 1 is in progress, very exciting. And I thought I'd highlight for you some of the activities that I do through the month. I keep a report of that in my timed spreadsheet. I go into a little bit more detail than here, but I thought I'd just highlight some things for you, just in case you wanted to know what I was doing behind the scenes. So thanks, have a great night.
Great, thank you, Hope, for that. And yeah, I wanted to stress that there was a lot of detail in Hope's executive director report. If you didn't have a chance to see that, that gives a good idea of what she does day to day for us. I review her hours every 2 weeks to approve them, and I'm always impressed with the wide variety of activities that she does every day. So thanks for all that you do, Hope. Next up, we have the town staff report. Will that be Carolyn?
Sure. Yeah. So we do have quite a lengthy report, and then we also want to go through the 5-star certification program. So I thought what I do is just recommend that all of you read my COVID-19 update. It is already a little outdated, and there is more up-to-date data. The numbers are changing every day, and I do include links to where you can get more up-to-date information. And then if there is something, Miranda, you want to share from the staff report before we go to the PowerPoint presentation for the 5-star program, go ahead and share that too.
Yeah, as Karen just said, my information's also in this report. And so I just wanted to let you all know that the temporary use agreements and license agreements that town has made with a series of businesses to allow them to do outdoor dining, those are going to continue to be extended. The initial they were initially given a 120-day time frame. We did one extension and just confirmed with the board that they were comfortable with us continuing. So we plan to do so while the emergency declaration is still in place. So until further notice. And then I believe you're discussing Envision 2030 at the end of your meeting. So I will skip that. And the last thing is just for businesses to be aware about the fraudulent unemployment claims. Rita's had to deal with a couple, unfortunately, for town, and we wanted to put the information out for businesses to be aware that this could happen for their employees and how to handle that. So the details of that are in our staff report.
Thanks, Miranda. So you probably have all heard of the 5-star certification program. That was an initiative prompted by the governor's office that is actually overseen by the state, by the Colorado Department of Health and Environment. And it's a program that counties are allowed to opt into if they so choose. And Boulder County is in the process right now of creating a plan and an application to apply to become a part of this program. So what the program does is it actually encourages businesses to implement safety measures beyond what's required by the health orders in order to slow the spread of COVID-19 and at the same time have more customers and be able to provide more services with less restrictive capacity caps. As I said, the program's voluntary. Even if the county were to submit the application and then be approved, it is up to the individual business owner then to decide if they want to apply. Right now, we're in level orange as a county, but there's 3 criteria that you have to meet in order to even be allowed to advance the 5-star program. So even if we were to be approved today, we still wouldn't be allowed to actually implement the program because one of our markers is still in the red. Although we're coming down, our case numbers are coming down, and we're pretty confident that we're going to see that number continue to come down and that it won't be long before the county would actually be eligible. But there's criteria that have to be in place first before we can even apply. Most of that's already taking place. There is an administrative committee that's already been put together at the county level. They're putting a plan together. They're working on the variance application that would be presented to CDPHE, but they're also trying to secure the supportive letters that they need from the county commissioners, from the county sheriff's office, and from the county hospitals. The other thing they're trying to do is to get support from the various municipalities to find out, hey, are you guys even interested in this? If we were able to do this, do you think you would support this in your own community? So we were asked to present that to the Board of Trustees at their meeting last week. And the Board of Trustees was very supportive, although, you know, their concern was it seemed like it's a pretty arduous process, and they wondered if maybe, you know, the county could look at making it a little less cumbersome for the businesses who are, you know, already struggling and already short on resources. The other thing they suggested was that there's some sort of process so that the administrative fee that a business would have to pay, which we're looking at about $100 right now in order to apply, that there would be some sort of waiver or stipend available, which the administrative committee is looking at. And the way Boulder County is going forward with this program is they actually want to work with a third-party vendor called H2 Manufacturing Solutions. So they would actually be the ones who the $100 that the businesses pay would cover their work, and they would help organize and train trainers who would go out and do inspections. They would help the administrative committee come up with a scorecard, as it were, to help establish the eligibility of each business individually. Even if a business were to be certified, they would have to be re-inspected every 8 weeks in order to maintain their certification that allows them to be able to operate with less restrictions. They'd also have to advertise that they are a 5-star business. Part of the PowerPoint, I'm not going to go through every single slide with you. I mean, the benefits for the businesses are obvious. Going to a less restrictive operating procedure and program would just allow them to do more business, hopefully generate more revenue, hopefully employ more folks, creating more jobs for the area. So, you know, it's a pretty much of a win-win for our community. And our Board of Trustees did not even mention that they were concerned about increasing the spread of the virus. And I would say that's a testament to the great job that our businesses have been doing. Our businesses have been on board since day one. Since the day we had to shut down the frozen dead guy days, businesses have got on board and for the most part have followed all the public health orders to the T. That's why we are still the municipality in the county which has the least percentage of cases. We still only have 20 confirmed cases of COVID. So that's kudos to everybody, not just the businesses, but the businesses certainly have played a big part in that. Really the question tonight for the DDA is, would you support the town of Nederland going forth if the county has a successful application and is given a variance? Do you support the businesses going forward with this? I know you have a very intense agenda. I'm not sure, you know, how we could go about, you know, having this conversation. One of the thoughts I had is that you could think about it and send me a follow-up email. Or if you did want to do a quick go around, Steve, and see how people weigh in. But basically, the Board of Trustees thought it was really important that the DDA were aware of this program, which I know I have forwarded information to Hope and to Steve, and I think at one point to the entire DDA as well. But just to make sure that you're on board and you don't have any concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. And I feel like we do have a pretty intensive meeting tonight, but I would, if the timing is okay with you, I would love to encourage our board members to either send you an email or they could send them all to me and I could, you know, get them together and send it to you by the end of the week.
Oh,
I
that
don't
would
know
be
what
that would be great, Steve. Yeah,
Okay.
because we still got a little bit of a process. Like I said, we're still operating in the red. So even if we got permission today, we couldn't do it. The other thing is,
Okay.
I think the administrative group has quite a process in front of them to try to get. They have to get all the hospitals, the 5 hospitals in the county, to sign off on their plan, which they're just finalizing. And like I said, the sheriff's department has to sign off, and so do the commissioners. So we have a little time. If you could, though, get back to me by the end of the week, then I can report back to the BOT at our next meeting on Tuesday.
Great, that sounds perfect. So yes, if all the board members could please send me an email, you know, with your thoughts of support or not supporting that project, and then by Friday, I'll send Karen a consolidated email with our responses.
And if somebody does have a follow-up question, of course, you're welcome to email me first before you weigh in if there's something I can help you understand better.
Great, thanks, Karen. That would help me. So perfect.
Sure.
I'll on Friday, maybe by noon on Friday, I'll send you over an email with all our responses.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
For sure, and thank you. So next up, we have the committee reports. And first up is the Big Springs Parking Committee. I don't know if Ron or Andrew wants to chime in on that one for us.
Andrew, you want to go ahead?
So last communication we had was to get the survey from Flagstaff Surveying that Lee prepared to JVA, and it's been my understanding that JVA has then taken that survey and they're doing their design work based on it, and we're kind of waiting to hear from JVA to get their design and you know, construction administration packet, so to speak, put out. So I think my understanding has been that we're in a wait and see for JVA to take Flagstaff's survey and go forward with their design and their operational direction. Chris, I don't know if you can speak to if you've heard anything from JVA after they've received Lee's design, but I have not, or the DDA has not heard anything from JVA since they received Flagstaff's survey, to my knowledge. But maybe, Chris, that's not true. If you've heard anything, I think Ron and I would love to hear it.
I have seen a drawing. It's either earlier this week or late last week, that I sent some comments on. And I thought I would just get a little bit of clarification before I sent it on to you guys. I could send it to you, though. It's not very detailed. And so I was looking for more details. So they have actually done a little bit of work, and I have the results of some of their work. So I'll send it to you guys.
Thanks, Chris.
Great. Thanks, Andrew and Chris, both on that one. Next up, we have the Performance Space and Electrical Box Committee. I'm not sure which of the people on that would like to give any update.
I'll say, but first of all, sorry I missed last month's meeting with the emergency appendix issue, and I have not at all had my finger on the pulse of the performance space or electrical box, so I apologize. And the last that I heard, we were gonna fund finishing the roof over the electrical box, but as far as the performance space, I think that's kind of fallen a bit by the wayside, at least for me personally, over the last month and a half.
I can speak to that. The electrical utility shed has been completed. My staff went over there and kind of cleaned up the job site and picked up all the remaining materials. But as far as ready to go, it's actually ready. I could open it up and we can plug into it tomorrow if we wanted to. So it's ready to go, and I think we can cross that off our list.
May I just quickly ask, shall I leave performance space up as a committee item report on the agenda, or now that the electrical box is fully complete, should I just take all of it off? That just a board's question.
I guess just, this is Andrew now speaking. Hope, I think that I see the performance space as an entirely different item than the electrical box. While they do share utilities, I think it would be valuable to leave the performance space up, and I think I may have to circle back with the other committee members and see if they still have interest in being involved in the performance space, but it's definitely something that's important to me and I would like to put energy into. So I think for me personally, I would like to see the performance space kept on the radar, and I think getting rid of the electrical, or crossing that off the list, is, as Chris said, could be done, but that's just my 2 cents.
Thanks, Andrew. I agree with that too, just so it doesn't fall off the radar. And I can see a lot of crossover with ProSab and other groups. So I think it's good to keep it active.
Speaking of ProSab, remember Jess Ansari presented that amazing grant that deals with that whole area. So it might be a great time to partner with them and see about that, because they're interested in wayfinding as well through that area. So that's it. Just wanted to give you some information.
Okay, thanks, Hope. Next up, we have the Beautification Committee. Claudia and Maria, would either of you like to speak on that?
Yeah, I'm ready to speak on it. I'm happy we have some stuff to report. Ray and I will be meeting this Friday. We haven't been able to catch up, but we will be meeting, and we have been discussing a lot. We were thinking about, I think we discussed it with you, like having a actual landscaping company, someone come in and help us with this. On a meeting that I was on with Wayfinding with Garrett and Chris, and Garrett's sustainability, and correct me if I'm wrong, for town, he pointed me in the direction of Resource, and they have Garden in a Box program. So that got me to thinking, I talked to them, and that got me to thinking that it's possible that we could actually do some of this on our own. And so I've been speaking with Mike, who helped us out last year, and then Rhea jumped in and actually talked to the woman down at Resource also. I spoke with her. And so we're kind of at the point where we're thinking we might be able to do this on our own with some sort of a paid consultant, someone to help us. Rhea has enough background, and I can jump in and help coordinate. So I think what we're going to be doing is we're going to meet with Mike to get his input on Friday, and we're going to look at finding someone that could actually tell us what to do, where to put things, looking at all the different areas we have, and then look at purchasing plants, maybe from Resource, maybe not, but we're definitely getting some help from them, and look into hiring someone that could possibly coordinate and plan it for us, and then maybe a separate person that could actually do the work. The main goal and objective of this is to keep it sustainable, keep it to less annuals and more perennials, and utilizing the water system that we have in place to try to cut down on water consumption, because last year was pretty tough. So I'm pretty excited about it. I think we're moving along, and I will have more to report next month.
Hey,
Great.
everybody, Dana. This is Dana. I just want to chime in and let you know that I'm here.
Okay. Thank you, Dana. Great. Thanks.
Claudia, I know I have in regards to Resource, there's some mutual friends there's Neil Laurie, who's kind of a lead down there. And I think, I'm happy to talk with you kind of off the meeting minutes in regards to, maybe putting together a scope of work for someone who might be a planner, partially paid or paid planner, and then putting together a volunteer, scope, because I think the people that would do the work, I would like to see hopefully more volunteered, but I think the planner part, whether it involves Resource or not, for the Garden in the Box concept, that's something that if you want to talk through off the meeting, I'd be happy to do.
Oh, that's great. Thanks. And if we could get some volunteers, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, you guys. Yeah, we all look forward to hearing the developments on that. Next up, we have the Communication Committee with Barbara Hart. I was seeing if she's on. It looks like she's not on the meeting. Barbara, are you here?
Barb is not here tonight, but just a really quick update. She's met with Spafford. She has gotten into the website and has made some changes. She really does seek everyone's opinion when she sends an email. You can't really move the website forward without everybody's thoughts. So thanks to everyone who responded to the banner. And that's it. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Hope. Next up, we have the committee, and I know that's been relatively dormant. I'm not sure if Jonathan or Claudia has anything to update on that.
I don't have any additional update. So.
I haven't done anything on that one. I've been pretty much focused on beautification and wayfinding, but it's not dead. I intend to revive it.
Okay, well, that sounds great. And the next one is Claudia with the Wayfinding Committee update.
Wayfinding, I feel really excited about this one too. We had a meeting, Steve and I had a meeting with John from Merge, is that it? who we've contracted with to help us with wayfinding. And we are working really hard on basically the first steps. The first steps are going to be getting the stakeholders together in relatively small meetings. They'll, of course, all be virtual. John will participate with us, and we'll be exploring what people are thinking, where they want signage, what they want, how it impacts their businesses. We'll have the town as a stakeholder. We want, of course, and I've already met with Chris on some of this, so that's been really good. We'll have businesses clumped together basically by geography for the brick and mortars, what they'd like to see, what they're thinking. We will pull together like the town boards, ProSab, of course, anybody else, any of the other town boards that are advisory committees that are interested. And what I was thinking was, because we have a trustee member on just about all of those boards, that they would then be invited to participate with their board. So whoever covers ProSab, for example, would be invited to participate with ProSab. And that would be our way of making sure that the trustees are involved from the very beginning. If Chris or any of the trustees wanted us to do something differently than that, then we certainly could, but that seemed like that would take care of it. So we're working on breaking those groups up, and then we were hoping to get some meetings scheduled by the end of the month, and I'm still hoping that can happen. And that will get us on the table as far as getting everybody's opinions on what they're thinking. We're not going to have designs to show people. That's a little premature, but we need to find out what people are thinking and what they're looking at. Oh, we're also going to include citizens, and so I'm going to reach out for some help on that. Who people think might like to be involved in that are in the district, that live in the district, and what they think about it. That one I'm open to suggestions on. So if anybody wants to help with that, I'd welcome it. Steve, did I miss anything? Looks like that maybe.
Steve just said that his computer froze up, so he doesn't have the ability.
Well, just so you know, we are moving forward. We're very active in it, and it's looking good. Any questions?
No, thanks, Claudia.
Jonathan, do you have any thoughts on keeping the trustees involved? Does that sound like an okay plan to you?
It sounded great.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, should we wait a moment for Steve to get back on, or shall we proceed with the presentation from PACE representative Matthew Hannon? We do have quite a few people who'd like to speak. Yeah, Karen, is that okay? Or does Steve need to be here? Oh, Brent's here.
Yeah, I think we keep moving. If he's frozen up, let's go to Matt and keep moving along.
All right, thank you.
Great. Well, thank you very much for having me. My name is Matt Hannon. I'm a business sustainability advisor with Boulder County PACE. And I have a little PowerPoint presentation. I'm not sure if it's, I haven't really used WebEx before. So I'm not sure if I can get it up, but I know you guys have a pretty packed schedule, so I'm happy to just chat for a couple of minutes about why I'm on here. And then I'll obviously let you get back to your meeting. Actually, let me see, I have a share option here.
Yeah, so Matt, if you click share at the bottom, yep, you are sharing.
Cool, sounds good. Let's see here. All right, so can everyone see this?
Yep.
Sounds good. Let's see. So I'll just kind of keep it at this. I'm going to go through these pretty quickly. So my name is Matt. I'm with Partners for Clean Environment. And I've actually spoken to a number of you. Brent knows me from about 2 to 3 years ago, Steve as well. I spoke in front of the DDA meeting back when we could actually meet in person, back in the good days. But I just thought I'd kind of refamiliarize you folks just with our program. We have a couple new offerings now, so I'm just going to take a couple minutes to kind of quickly go through who we are, kind of our new big program that I think could benefit quite a few Nederland businesses, and then I'll open it up for any questions that you might have. So PACE is basically the one-stop shop for business sustainability here in Boulder County. We've been around for about 20 years, started as a pollution prevention program, and are mostly funded by the city of Boulder and Boulder County. We actually have 4 or 5 full-time advisors in the city of Boulder, and I'm the only one that works outside the city of Boulder and Boulder County. So it just kind of goes to show you that 80% of our funding is all through the city. So we offer energy advising services, waste reduction services, and then water quality and transportation as well. And we've got a pretty big impact here in the county, just some numbers thrown out there. We've worked with about 3,000 businesses at this point, about $2.5 million in utility bill savings, equivalent to taking about 4,500 cars off the road. Through energy advising, we do assessments where I'll come out and look around and kind of do some actual kind of consulting work as to where businesses can save money. And then we also connect you with rebates as well. We have rebates through our program, but also through Xcel Energy, everything from lighting to HVAC equipment, kitchen equipment, which I'll get to a little bit in just a moment. Zero waste advising. I know I've brought some recycling bins up to Eldora before, to Hunter up there. We also have signs that we make, which I think I've provided Steve with before. And we also do employee waste trainings. I've done a couple of those up in Nederland just to kind of debunk some of those myths as to what can be recycled versus trashed versus composted. And those are some of the signs we give out, a couple of bins as well. $300 worth of bins per business too. So if you're thinking of, if you're a business owner and you need some new recycling bins, don't go out and buy them. Just let me know and I can get them for you for free. Water efficiency as well. We have pre-rinse spray valves is on the left there. That's what restaurants use to clean dishes before they go in the dishwasher, and then an aerator there on the right. Water's pretty expensive up in Nederland, so if you have any water faucets, toilets, obviously anything that uses water, we can help upgrade those as well, either with free equipment like you see pictured. Toilets aren't free, but there are some rebates available depending on exactly what the situation is. And then transportation, I know I've gotten Steve some bike racks before for his business. We help with EV charging station grants as well, and partner with some transportation management organizations. One other little thing we do is PACE certification. We're actually redoing how we do our certification, so I'll probably just skip over that, but we can offer, well, Newman Bakery actually just got zero waste certified, so we can provide some extra PR there as well. And then there's green business programs. Also, I think Nederland actually might be starting a new green business program this year. But that's something that we've had in Lafayette, Louisville, and Longmont the last handful of years. And we provide some great recognition there in terms of just getting the word out through the internet, newspaper ads, door decals, a number of other things as well. But I wanted to mostly talk about today was a small business equity program, and I'm only going to chat about it for a couple of minutes here. But we launched a small business equity program to help replace old and outdated refrigeration equipment for generally disadvantaged or minority-owned businesses. So I actually was up with Ron Mitchell in late September, and we walked around to a handful of the properties that he owns and manages. And I know Ubon Thai and Kathmandu are going to be getting some new equipment from us. But basically, you meet a set of criteria, and my program will pay for 70% of the cost of new equipment. So you can see a refrigerator there, an ice machine. And so it's been a really successful program. And we plan on launching the second iteration of this program in probably the next couple months. We're kind of learning some lessons from our first phase of it. We have a whole bunch of new equipment we want to add that we weren't able to rebate. But basically, this is for really any businesses. We're trying to concentrate on more on those kind of disadvantaged or minority owned. Hence why Ubon and Kathmandu are upgrading some equipment. But obviously, if you're a white person, we're not going to say no, you can't have this money either. But if you have a restaurant that's got some really old, outdated kitchen equipment, I'll come in, I'll do some measurements. We're going to make sure that equipment qualifies. Basically, it just needs to be 2005 or earlier. And then we'll work with Tundra Restaurant Supply down in Boulder to replace it with some new equipment. And it's a white glove service, which basically means You don't have to do anything. You got to provide your 30% of the new equipment. So, you know, at $10,000 worth of equipment, you pay for $3,000 worth. The county will cover $7,000 worth. And you basically have some brand new, super efficient equipment. The whole point is to kind of find, you know, obviously win-win situations. We want to help businesses cut down on their greenhouse gas emissions, so their energy use, while the businesses will obviously save money on their utility bills. So we're really looking for those win-win situations. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions. I don't want to take too much of your time, but our website's there. You can find out a lot more information in pacepartners.com. There's a small business equity page, and it'll give you all the information on there. And then my email, obviously, if you have any questions, and my phone number. That's kind of a computerized phone number right now because I'm not in my office. So I think email is the best way to reach us or to reach me. And then obviously the website's got a ton of information. So with that, I think I've taken my allotted time here, and so I'll open it up for a couple of minutes of questions, and then I'll let you get back to your meeting.
Thank you very much, Matt.
Yeah.
I just want to thank you for the work that you've done, and I know you've helped certainly several of the businesses I work with and know, and I'm sure others that I don't work with and know, but I know that they're eager to see, you know, what's coming in 2021, and if there's, you know, new qualifying equipment. Looking forward to seeing if there's anything that we can do to increase the efficiency and kind of get rid of the old and start fresh in 2021. And so, yeah, thank you very much. That's all I've got to add. I just want to let everyone know who isn't aware of this or hasn't read the fine print that it's a great program. And so, yeah, thank you very much, Matt.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would just chime in a similar context. Matt's program, we've been working with him for 2 or 3 years now, and it's really been amazing. And it's a great resource, if nothing else. Even if you didn't take advantage of every single thing they do, it's really helpful for every business. And thanks, Matt, for being here tonight. It's really a cool program.
Yeah, thanks, Brent.
Matt, I should like to talk with this right. Oh, excuse me.
Oh, no, go ahead, Ron.
Matt, I'd like to get in contact with you as quick as possible after the meeting or tomorrow or sometime this week.
Yeah, certainly, Ron. I know you obviously own a number of businesses up there, or not own them, but manage them, and you know, we have a few more to get to. So let's maybe touch base tomorrow, and we can see what we can see what we can get together.
Thank you.
And I'm back. Sorry, my computer just was up totally. I don't even think it was the WebEx, but I had been hoping to introduce Matt because I just love what you do. It's been amazing for me with the 80 Big Springs building. You know, we went really above and beyond with the energy efficiency when we were building it, and Matt was a great resource along the way. And we ended up getting he helped me, you know, connect me with a lot of places we could get rebates for what we did. And as you mentioned, we've got the bike racks from him and some recycling bins. But it's just a tremendous resource. I'm always in awe of what PACE is able to do to help businesses in the county. And the thought occurred to me, like, I don't know who among us would be able to take on the task of spreading the word about PACE up in town for other businesses, because I think it is such an amazing resource and it can really help our constituents here within the DDA and the town. Perhaps we could talk about that offline and find somebody who could spearhead that to, you know, to get the word out about PACE and put people in touch with Matt. So I think it could really help the town. But thanks for all you've done and for this presentation as well.
Yeah, thanks for the great words. And obviously, I'll be working with Garrett as well, just on getting you some more info out there. So if you have any kind of newsletters, anything else like that, you know, we just want to get the word out because it's free money, it's free offerings, no cost to the businesses. So yeah, that's our main thing, is just to make sure folks are aware that we're out there for them.
Does anyone have anything else, questions or things they'd like to say about the PACE program?
It's Karina. Thanks so much for your presentation. And Steve, I'm happy to spearhead getting the word out.
Wonderful. That would be great, Karina. And as Matt mentioned, Garrett, you know, the Sustainability coordinator for town, I guess, is working with them. So perhaps get in touch with Garrett as well to, so it's not redundant efforts. But that would be great, Karina, if you could help spread the word among the DDA group businesses.
Okay. Great.
Yeah, I think, Matt, just one thing that specifically, I think, in thinking of pace, and specifically, I know it's kind of restaurant more centric. However, in regards to lighting and other, waste diversion, I think if, one of the things that we can do is help steer businesses that may not be restaurants, but can take advantage of, your resources. That would be something that I'd be happy to do.
Yeah, certainly. And the small business equity program really focuses on those kind of food service businesses, so restaurants or whatever else. But obviously we work with any business, not home-based businesses. Just our only requirement is that the building does need to have a commercial meter. But other than that, then you can take advantage of any of our offerings. Well, thank you very much, and feel free to get in contact with me. Garrett's got my info, as does a few others on this call, and I'm looking forward to working with you folks up in Ned, in 2021.
Great. Thanks again, Matt. Appreciate all you do.
Yep, thanks
Have
for
a good
having
night.
me.
Sure. All right, and then next up we have the financial policy update from Dana Edwards. Dana, if you'd like to take over.
Sure thing. Thanks, Steve. Hi, everybody. I know you got plenty to get to tonight, so I want to keep this brief, but I wanted to start with just talking about next steps from here very, very briefly, and then just have a chance to have you guys ask any questions about the materials that I sent out to you or that you should have received last Friday. So basically, after my review of the Colorado state statutes, it makes it pretty clear what you are allowed as a public entity to invest in and what you are not. And so from there, after this conversation tonight, my next steps would be to weave that into an investment policy statement that means something to you and that is also in line with those statutes. And so starting to look at more specific investments and what their returns are or what they have historically been, kind of how they work, what their coupon rate is, their guaranteed return, their maturity, things like that. So, and all of that really needs to be in line with your expectations and the DDA's financial needs as far as when you will potentially need to access this cash for projects, operational expenses, things like that. So that's sort of my next step and what I would be hoping to be able to have in your hands by your board meeting in February. And just with that as a overarching theme, what questions do you have for me about that or about any of the materials that you received last Friday?
Great. Thank you, Dana. I could open up the floor to anybody who does have questions. My first question, though, open it up for others, was when you wrote in that memo, what can the DDA legally invest in and not invest in? Was that all from you reading the Colorado statutes, and were they so clear that you feel very confident in those answers? Or do you think it would be helpful at this point to contact Paul Benedetti for any input on his before you take your next steps? Just curious what your thoughts are on that.
Yes, thank you so much for just bringing that up. I would say I'm about 90% certain that what I've read is what I was able to distill it down into. It was fairly straightforward from the financial side. From the legal side, I would love to just get sort of a check from your counsel just to be absolutely sure, because I don't want, obviously to waste any of your time or my time going forward without that. So thank you for bringing that up. That was something I was planning to make a request of as well, but I wanted to just be cognizant of his time and
right.
What we can use him for.
Great. Well, thank you. Yeah, I feel like at this juncture, after the meeting, I could certainly, one thing I was thinking is maybe to send him that, the memo that you attached here in our AIM, and just see if there are any other investment options that, aren't stated that you might want to consider or we might want to consider. And just to kind of cross-check and make sure that he validates what you were saying from a legal standpoint. So I could do that this week, and then I'll get back to you. I'll probably just CC you even on that email, so when he replies all, you could see what's going on.
Sure, that sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks.
If I could add to that, I read this very thoroughly and did some research too. If you would ask Paul about the thing that actually originated this discussion, and that's investing in Boulder County tax certificates.
Yeah.
So if you could include that in the discussion with Paul Benedetti.
Okay, I'll do that.
Thank you.
And actually, Ron, I wanted to do that as well. I actually sent you an email earlier this afternoon in regards to that, and just some of my thoughts from what I've read. But and I think I even said we should probably talk with Paul Benedetti about it. So it's on my radar.
Okay.
And definitely want to close the loop on that one.
Thank you. I haven't got to my email yet. I just slid into the office when the meeting started.
Sure.
Great. Is there anyone else that has any questions at this point for Dana?
No, thank you. This is great.
Good. I hope that it was easy to understand. That's always a goal of mine when talking about these things, because they can get very complex very quickly. So if any of you, read it again or a question comes to mind and you just want to ask me, please feel free to send me an email or give me a ring. I'm always happy to just help further the understanding of this stuff, and definitely want to make sure that you all feel like you understand it enough to be able to either agree or disagree when when that matters. So
great. Thank you, Dana. I appreciate that. If there's nothing else that you wanted to present to us on that, we could move on.
Okay, sounds great. I'm going to drop off. Feel free to reach out to me anytime, and Steve will be in touch before the end of this week and get Paul looped in, okay?
Perfect. That sounds great. Thanks, Dana. I've made a note to do that. Okay.
Sounds good. Take
Great.
care, everybody.
Great. Thank you for your presentation.
Absolutely. Bye.
Bye-bye. Next up, we have the public art update with Man.
Yeah, and actually, Miranda, hi everyone. Miranda, I'm actually going to do a share screen of my own as well, if I can find the right thing I'm looking for. So nice to be with you all tonight. Thank you for having me. I know it's been a bit of time since we last had an update, so I will run through this very briefly. But first of all, what has been covered since the last time we met? I appreciate everyone's heavy lift on helping get the word out. We had quite a bit of community participation in the public art survey. There were 54 participants, so although it's not statistically significant, at the same time, it does really start to share the expectations and understandings of public art in Nederland. What stood out most to me is that it's not only the environment, but also the community that makes Nederland such a special place, which is probably not a surprise to anyone, but really want to push that in the public art and cultural plan. In your attachment, you have all of the survey results, so feel free to dig into the details of that. I also wanted to let you know that we've had monthly meetings with the Public Art Committee since September. And so this little subcommittee, Rhea and Karina are both on it, and Hope has been helping out too. But the committee focuses on community engagement, on kind of the financial side of things, so budgets, grants, and fundraising, then creative placemaking and public art planning, so that bigger comprehensive view, and then actually what it takes to put art into a built environment. So we call that project implementation. The first iteration of the plan is drafted up, and it's with the Public Art Committee right now. And I hope to share that with you all by the time the meeting is over, and would love any feedback on that. I have 2 quick slides that kind of inform the mission and goals. And these are just, the first is the key experience zones. Where would you want to see more art in Nederland? And even though there's some bulleted items here, really, it's just that there's so much excitement and enthusiasm. So this shows the kind of spectrum of types of experiences, not only just out and about in your daily environment, but also integrated into building spaces in the traffic circle. And then the 2 items that are starred, Barker Reservoir, and then the community center, those are beyond the formal boundaries of the NDDA. And so the first approach will really be focusing on what are the opportunities within the NDDA. And the second is kind of project types and styles. There was a lot of response for murals, and I know since we last chatted, the new mural is up at the Harvest House, and so there's a lot of excitement around that. So I wanted to take a moment to call out that in addition to the public art plan, there's a 2-page draft of mural expectations as well. Folks are excited about performance spaces, so it was good to have the update from the Performance Space Committee. And then just a huge desire for responsiveness to nature, rotating sculptures, humorous, playful, whimsical. So this is kind of setting the stage for a stair-stepped approach into a variety of projects and a variety of locations. And the reason I bring up not only the locations, but the project types is because I know that you all are very plugged in and are business owners or property owners yourselves. And so a next big step is to understand what's the expectation or what's the appetite within your community, specifically folks who might have a wall to host a mural or someone who has property to host a piece of artwork. So we'll get into that in just a second. But I wanted to share the draft mission and goals. This is really not only to reflect all of the feedback from the community through the survey, but also to kind of marry the plan with the mission and goals of the NDDA. Especially as the sponsor entity for this plan, it felt very important to make sure that those 2 live together. And so I'm not going to read this out to you because you'll be receiving it as well, but sometimes words on a screen help folks focus, including myself. I am definitely that type of person, so wanted to share those with you today. I will highlight that going back to the sense of community and the sense of place are critical. And so how can art help further that conversation and that story while still showcasing local talent, local business, but also bringing in a broader conversation beyond that. So, and then what is outstanding? So many of you on the call, I have some one-on-one interviews that I want to schedule, but of course wanted to have the draft plan available in the first place so that it was a place of orientation or a starting point. Additionally, looking for perspectives from property and business owners, as mentioned. That in particular, if those of you on the call are interested in participating in that, please email the nedpublicart@gmail.com because it's really a good chance to kind of ask questions, dig into it, and kind of unearth where those opportunities are and what the expectations might be around it. So by the end of February, we'll have wrapped up benchmark studies and then have a community charrette with the draft plan. I'm hoping to finalize everything between February and March. So by the time you get to, so the first version, this is my articulate way of saying that. The first version, which you'll get tonight, if you have any questions, comments, input you want to share, please do that over the course of the next month. And then that will get integrated in so that by the time February comes around, you'll have another version of the status of the plan. And then that will open up yet another month of feedback from February 10th to March 10th. And then ideally in March, we'll still be able to approve the plan so that as we're looking into the grant season, upcoming developments or upcoming projects, there's an opportunity to really marry the two together. The content will be complete, hopefully or the goal is for the content to be complete by March, but the kind of finished, pretty glamorous copy, those are my great words for tonight, but the more formalized, polished copy would be available sometime after the approval of the final content. So there will be a little bit of a delay there, but we want to make sure that, you know, it's something that reflects the energy and enthusiasm of town. So that is what I have. At this point, do any of you have any questions?
Mandy, this is Steve.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, thanks for that presentation, by the way.
Yeah.
One question I had is, Chris Pelletier is going to present to us tonight about the TIP project that he's working on, and it's gaining steam, and I think they have some timelines involved. And I was just wondering if you or the folks on the committee with you have addressed any of his questions about where some public art might be able to find a home, you know, within the TIP project boundaries. I just don't know if you've been in touch with him about that.
Not yet, but Chris, you are one.
I can answer for Mandy.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say Mandy had asked for contact information and for me to assist her with connecting people together and meetings. And actually the information I'm going to provide to Claudia is going to go right to Mandy as well. So it's great to be able to share that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Perfect. I'll work with Claudia and, you know, and kind of go through her to connect with you, Mandy. But yeah, I wrote your email down as you were talking because in my project, first of all, you mentioned in your presentation the gateway spot, and so my project coincides with that spot, the gateway spot. So, so tonight, when I present the area that could be proposed for public art space, then the rest of the board can weigh in on that and give some input on essentially a placeholder to put a piece of art. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Chris. Look forward to speaking with you.
I'd love to be a part of those conversations too, Chris and Mandy.
Absolutely, Karen.
Karen, yeah.
Without a doubt.
Want to have some fun.
Yeah.
Do we have anyone else for any input or questions for Mandy at this time?
Great. Well, I will stick around and listen in, but I'm going to step out of the presenter mode. So thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mandy. We really appreciate that. And I think there is a ton of enthusiasm in town and on this board and town staff as well about what you're working on. So we're really excited to see it progress.
Me too. Thank you.
For sure. Let's see. Now we're going to move on to Chris Pelletier about the award of the Safer Main Streets initiative.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Chair Carreau, and to the rest of the board. I'll make this brief. I think everybody said that tonight. We're right on schedule. So the SMS grant, the Safer Main Streets initiative, this was presented to the BOT back in August 4th at their BOT meeting and received unanimous consent to move forward. And then I presented it to this board at in August 12th. And the grant criteria was primarily to promote safer pedestrian travel in town, and particularly for vulnerable users, and to improve multimodal transit access. CDOT awarded funds to fund the project. I just want to be clear about that. And the project I presented was a $350,000 project, which included sidewalk improvements, some crosswalks, some traffic calming, and engineering. So the grant itself, though, is an 80%, 20% split. But when I presented to you at your meeting in August, I presented a $350,000 project, asking for $280,000 from CDOT, and then the remaining $70,000 I was asking the DDA if they would fund if I was awarded the grant. Well, fortunately, I was awarded the grant, and like I said, the grant is for sidewalk improvements. I put a kind of a picture, a really broad picture in your packet of the area that we're focusing on, but essentially the crusher fine earthen sidewalk that's in front of the library and on the north side of Highway 72. Developing a signalized, potentially a signalized crosswalk at the library, and again at the visitor center. And we're in the preliminary stage of just discussing those plans right now. Traffic calming, I'm not exactly sure what that looks like and what CDOT will allow. It could be curb extensions, or I'm really not sure actually. So I'll get more information on that. And I did talk to Chair Grow a little bit about the funding. I know that there was some question about, when should you release the funds? I asked for 70,000. However, in fiscal year 2021, which right now, the town's local match is $20,000. But the federal fiscal year goes from July to June. And so then in fiscal year 2022, the town's match would be 30,000. And then in fiscal year 2023, which would be June of next year, starting June of next year, would be the remaining 20,000. So it's up to you how you guys want to split up the funds. It seems to me to be easier just to do a resolution for the entire 70,000. But if there's a concern with how you're managing your funds or how you're trying to divvy them out, I just want to make that clear that I wouldn't need all the funds this year, but 50,000 I would like this year, because like I said, by July I'm actually into 2022 and I can move into construction. So the timeline of the project, I'm hoping to get through design by this year, by the end of June. And then as I move through design, I'll bring it, of course, to you guys and to the other boards for input, and so that I can get feedback on the project. So I'll include you guys and plus some other advisory boards through every step, so I make sure I make a project that aligns with everybody's values. And that's it. So if there's any questions, I'll take them now.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. And I just wanted to say something first that I think I was a little confused in the beginning about the match, but Chris confirmed with me last week that he was granted the full 350,000 as he had presented to us back in August, I believe. And the reason that the aim is saying 280,000 is because when it was granted at 350, they subtract out the 20% that would be a match. And so it does turn out to be a $70,000 match by the NDDA. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that point up front. And the other thing, in case Ron or Hope wanted to speak to it this evening with Chris, I think just the timing of it is important. But from my understanding, we had already basically appropriated those funds in our budgeting. So it should fall into the funds that we had already figured that we would be releasing sometime this year. But I could be wrong on that. So just wanted to leave it up for Ron or Hope if they had any other input on that financial aspect of it.
Yes, there are funds appropriated for the project, $70,000.
Thank you. And Chris, would it be okay with you if Ron and Hope were to talk after the meeting and get back to you with the timing of releasing those for you? Or is that
Sure.
something that we should do here at the meeting? I'm not sure if
No.
Karen may be able to chime in on that.
Well, it's just an informational. I tend, Karen reminds me that I write all my aims like their actions.
Sure.
It's truly not. It's really information, but so I don't need the money tomorrow or even next month, really. But I do want to get the process going. So.
It's because you're so passionate, Chris. So the only thing I just want to say is that maybe Chris could be sure to continue to communicate with the DDA so you all know. Was this already taken to the Board of Trustees? I don't think so, but correct me if I'm wrong.
No, it hasn't. And it's actually just in my staff report at their next meeting.
Okay.
So no.
So maybe you can just keep the DDA apprised of when they'll need to bring the resolution forth to the Board of Trustees.
Okay.
That sounds good.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. Andrew here. Can I just talk for one minute on this?
Yes. Yeah.
So, I mean, my intention, and I think what I've heard is, we had already committed to 70,000 to help, get the grant. And that money's, allocated. I mean, I see it as really the best investment. We're in the kind of segueing from the investment policy. It's, what better investment than, to get funds for town. So, and what I've heard, Chris, is you mentioned, I believe, that maybe parts of that, 70,000 are due in fiscal 2020 or 2021 or possibly 2022. Is that correct?
Yeah, this year, so the funds can be released right now. They're available right now. But I do have a process to go through with CDOT because it's very tedious. Nonetheless, once I get through that process and I start going through the design phase, then I'll start receiving invoices. So yeah, I'd like to get the process going in the next couple months anyway.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And I just, think that this is, in a way, it's good because all the, board can think of, at least my paradigm is, and when considering through the lens of an investment policy, it helps sort of take the pressure off because there's less, we have, less money that's in the bank, so to speak, just sitting there idle. So, if I think whatever we need to do to help, Chris, keep you moving with the grant is how I personally feel that, we should be doing. And if that means, a portion back then and a portion now and a portion in the future, I support it, and nothing seems complicated or confusing there.
Okay. Yeah, if the money's been already appropriated, then a resolution for the full 70,000 is the simplest way to go about it, and just release the funds, and then we can move on, and we don't have to think about it anymore. So the only reason why I talked about splitting it up was if there was concerns within your own how you were managing your project. That was all.
Great. And I think Hope and Ron can figure that out and get back to you after the meeting.
Okay.
That's fine with me.
Okay, great. Is there any other input from any board members about this topic? Okay, it sounds, was that somebody? Well, thanks, Chris, for presenting that. And I think that it'll be a great thing for the town to have the safer crosswalks. The more traffic we have, the more important it becomes.
Yeah, I look forward to presenting some design concepts in the next couple months.
Great, that sounds great. Next up, we have the tip project, which Chris is going to present. But Chris, before you start on that, I had said that I would get back to you with some of the feedback from the board since our last meeting when you had presented this, and we didn't have enough response from board members to have anything close to a consensus or a full feedback. But what I did hear from people, and even including my input, I think that people were generally pretty interested in exploring the possibility of more parking during that project. And you had indicated that would be primarily or maybe only along West First Street. So I think all the responses I got mentioned the importance of parking and that they felt that it was a good project to try to work with the town on during the construction. We don't know any of the details of that yet, but there was definitely some board input, positive toward that. And then the other thing that was real clear at our last meeting was also reiterated by a couple of the respondents, saying that they really wanted to, get the input of NEDS, both NEDS, the business, and the property owner. And I know you had mentioned that the town was in discussions with them about it, but that did seem to be another point that everyone who responded said they really wanted to be, aware of that and working with those people to come to a good solution on which of those three options might move forward. So that was pretty much just what I had able to glean from the feedback that I had received. And with that, I'll let you take over and present.
Okay, great. Yeah, so that's exactly right. At the last meeting, I presented an opportunity to develop parking on West First Street. So any feedback I could get on that would be great. And then, as you mentioned, to work with NEDS, and staff has reached out to the property owner and to NEDS to, well, first of all, we've explored our options with the town's attorney to make sure we know what our next steps are for constructing a sidewalk on private property. So we have our options. We've reached out to the property owner and we have a meeting with them next week and anticipate that if we can all work together that we should be able to move forward with placing the sidewalk on their property. So I'm hopeful for that. We also discussed some wayfinding, and I did talk to Claudia, and we established a group between Garrett and Claudia, and technically a member of ProSab. However, they didn't attend the last meeting, but intend to attend the next meeting. And I'd asked about, and as I just mentioned, sort of placeholders for wayfinding signs and possibly public art, and then beautification, because there's an opportunity to put up maybe some planters or something like that. So in your packet, there's some versions of the design. However, as it's happened every meeting, they have been refined a little bit. And so I'm going to present again from my screen a newer version of the designs so that you guys can check them out. So let me see if I can do that. Bear with me. Here we go. Okay. Okay, so this is pretty close to what was in your packet. It's in your packet. However, I made some clarifications in the design. So again, we have this frontage zone, a 24-inch frontage zone on Jefferson Street. But I just want to be clear that, you know, we're obviously not building a sidewalk that huge and with trees and stuff. It's just an example of a frontage zone. Then right here is where that is going to go. And so the changes here, you see, is parking. We have some perpendicular parking, and then I also have a version of angled parking. Over here is a some parallel parking next to Ned's, and if you remember, I had an image here, and we're trying to resolve this problem here, and so one way to do that is to do parallel parking and provides better separation. So this was a compromise between the angled parking. And the reason for that is to have a more, if you see my hand, kind of a direct and straight flow of traffic coming through here. So that was why. Otherwise, if we put some angled parking in here, it does this sort of weird bend and then back around again. And it's just not a nice flow of traffic. So that's why we did that. You see here on the curb extensions how they're hashed. We'd like to have an alternative material there. Garrett is working on looking for options for maybe carbon neutral materials like some kind of brick. You see in this little area here in front of Ned's, there's an opportunity for, we wrote information kiosk, excuse me, it could be wayfinding, it could be a piece of public art, but again, it's essentially a placeholder, and I'm looking for feedback. Again, here's the rain garden. I think this is the same that's on the drawing that's in your packet tonight. This hasn't changed. But feedback on beautification, you know, do we put a tree here or a flower bed? That's kind of the feedback I'd like to get from you guys. In this version, you see it's all perpendicular parking in this version. You actually fit more parking spaces that way. And then I'll show you the angled parking here in a moment. And then if you move over here to RTD, again, you know, where these hash marks are, it sort of provides definition, and we can have an alternative material. Then over here, there's a spot for wayfinding, the gateway sign, so to speak. Now we can make this bigger for a piece of public art. This green area here, this is new. I don't think this is on your drawing, but it could be a raised bed. It could just simply be landscaping with trees like aspen trees, or it could be, this could be a spot for public art. So I'm looking for feedback on that from you guys. I don't necessarily need it tonight, but if you have comments, that'd be great. And I think nothing else really has changed. Here's the entrance into the RTD, and again, we explore with alternative materials there to try to reduce our carbon footprint. And I'm going to move down to different version here. This is all the same, except you see that there's angled parking here, and there's angled parking in the visitor center parking lot. It does reduce the number of spaces. It does offer kind of a clear, it's clearly one way when you see that. And it's drive-in parking. Interestingly enough, you know, I had a discussion with Ron today about back-in parking. I'm not opposed to back-in parking. And there are studies that show it is a safe way to park. So I'll put that out there too. It can be reconfigured that way. Then one more slide down here is a version. So in this version, you see there's angled parking even on Jefferson Street. Again, like I said, it does reduce parking, but it does kind of really help delineate that this is one-way traffic. And but in this version, sidewalk is completely in the town's right of way. And I wanted to put this in here. If we're not able to negotiate with Ned's, the fallback will always be will be that we have to put the sidewalk on the town's own property. I'm hopeful that we won't have to do that if there's a desire to add more parking, and if the property owner is willing to work with the town to keep the sidewalk where it is. Then those earlier versions would probably be the ones that we'd go with. And then you see there's angled parking in this whole version here. And that is all that's changed. And then one other thing that I'd like to throw out there, because I received this SMS grant, the Safer Main Streets grant, and I'm going to move out of this picture a little bit. That grant reconstructs this sidewalk where my hand is on the north side of the highway. And then it develops this crosswalk here to be potentially signalized, and maybe with a curb extension to help slow traffic down and provide really positive connections. So kind of an extension of this project. And we had discussed with the engineers, because that project is happening, it might be desirable to put a sidewalk, not have the sidewalk over here, have a crosswalk more linear across Jackson Street, but in the middle of Jackson Street, and then have a sidewalk all the way up this side. Just an idea we're talking about. We could also put the sidewalk on this side too. We want to develop better connection to RTD with this SMS project, Safer Main Streets. So I just want to throw that out there. I don't want to clog up the conversation. And I think that's it. So yeah, so again, I'm looking for feedback. Let me go to the first version. I'm looking for feedback on this placeholder here next to front of Ned's, if this is going to be wayfinding. Again, I'm going to talk with Claudia and keep that conversation going. Then the gateway sign over here, I want to be sure that our design sizes the pad large enough for what is desired there. Public art, maybe this has to be bigger to accommodate art. I don't know what that looks like. And then this raised bed here or planter, I'm looking for feedbacks because this is technically one of the gateways in the town. And then over here in this planter, it'd be nice to get feedback. And I suspect SAB would have some feedback on that as well. So that's the latest version of the project. I'd be happy to take any questions or comments on that now.
Can I say something? Can I jump in?
Yes, Claudia.
Chris, I've looked at the maps. I have really tried, and I'm just not good enough at being able to see them at the scale that I've got. Would it be possible to come down to town and look at these in the flesh? That would be helpful for me.
Well, I really only have digital versions, but we could meet and look at them on my computer.
Okay.
I'm getting close. Now I will be presenting tomorrow night to the BZA to get feedback from them. I'll also be presenting a more comprehensive proposal to the DOT next week, which I'll probably go into more in depth about the history, how we got here, and how it aligns with town projects and so forth, and provide a more comprehensive overview of the project, since it'll be the first time that some of the members will be seeing it. And then, really, I'm trying to provide as much opportunity for the public also to see what's going on. I have put out notices to the area properties, homeowners, and businesses. There's a page on the website that you could refer to that has my phone number and email. So I'm open to take comments on this project anytime.
Yeah,
Thank you,
Mike,
Chris.
this is Brent. I'd say great job. This is much clearer now to me, and I like the way you've thought about trying to avoid little weird turns and put in some parallel parking. I would probably, my only input in the parking world is I just think because the roads are so narrow and that parking lot that I'm a fan of angled parking because I think it's clearer as to which way is one way. And you don't, it would be hard to go the wrong way. So I kind of like the way you've got it on the one I'm looking at right now. That just, I know you lose a couple spots, but it's just clearer that you can't back up and go the wrong way. So that would be my input. And I like how it just seems cleaner now than last time. So good job. I like it. If you can
Okay.
keep parking by Ned's, that's great. If you can't, but that's just my personal opinion is I think it's just easier to turn in and turn out of a parking spot on an angle that I know you lose a little bit, but with a one-way street, I think that's important.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. It's clear to the driver that you're on a one-way street.
Yeah. I realize there's a downside, but I like it.
Oh, actually, I have another figure to share, which was this turning diagram. It's not in your packet, but we also analyzed like a large truck, a tractor and a trailer truck, and the turning radius, because we wanted to be sure that we could accommodate. Let me zoom in a little bit. We wanted to be sure that we could accommodate large trucks, so we have analyzed it. And then this area where my hand is could be a loading area for Neds or provide the ability for a truck to back in or park, what have you. But as you can see, it can navigate these curbs. It's why we spread them apart a little bit and drive on out here. So I wanted to share that with you too.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. That's cool to see that. I remember we did that with our building too, with those kind of, widened lines as a tractor trailer makes the turns.
Mm-hmm.
And it's surprising sometimes how much of a radius they need to turn. I wanted to mention one thing that I've been thinking mostly in terms of the of our wayfinding committee, and it'll certainly come up again. We'll have a conversation about it, but in the meeting here with the rest of our board members, my thought is that, I know we keep referring to the over by the RTD lot as like a gateway for the town. But my thought is that it really isn't likely to be a gateway of any sort for tourists or for people, coming to town that don't already live here. Because I feel like tourists aren't going to come to Nederland on an RTD bus, and other people there's not any real parking over there so much. And when you see, on a busy weekend day in the summer or whatever, you always see people milling around more, by the visitor center and down First Street. And so in terms of wayfinding, I was really hesitant to use that spot over by the RTD as any kind of a gateway signage or, informational kiosk. And I wanted to get yours and other people's input on that, what your thoughts are, if that seems reasonable, or if people really feel like, tourists or out-of-towners who would be the ones who would be looking at a gateway sign and looking what's in town and what businesses are here, whether they would be over, in much quantity over in that zone. So I just wanted to bring that up, and if anybody in their other comments wants to, comment on that, I'd be really interested to hear about it.
I mean, I have a lot of our customers that use RTD, and I think we get people all the way from Denver to come and go to the ski area. Now, whether they're stopping in Nederland at the RTD lot or not, I can't speak to, but I think there's more people than you think that are using it, whether they're from Boulder or Denver, and it's not
Well,
100% local group.
and then in the summer and spring and fall, it's the Hesse Trail folks who are being encouraged to come up and use the bus and then take the shuttle from that area to the Hesse Trail. Now, I don't know, they've talked about only using the school parking lot for the Hesse Trail. I mean, they did that during COVID to minimize the numbers and whatnot. So I'm not sure if that'll still be used by them or not. But I do know that people do come up on the bus in the summer and spend time in town.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, thanks for that input.
I would just add that, I know I would also say that it's not a major gateway right now as think of it, and at the same time, as Brent brought up, the amount of people that either come to the RTD or exit that way, if we're funneling tons of people directionally out of West First Street, that kind of thinking of the Jackson Street gentrification, looking all the way down the road of what's going to happen to the historic building, and or if properties adjacent to Jackson are developed, given how long things take to happen. So I agree, it's in the immediate, it doesn't seem like a great idea to deal with wayfinding and signage, and at the same time, it's if we don't deal with it now, we're gonna have to deal with it sooner or later. So that's all.
Can I say something? This is, oh, sorry.
It's hard. I'll be quick. This is Claudia. It would be good for people to start thinking about where any kiosk, which would be primarily for foot traffic, should go. And I was kind of agreeing with Steve, but now I'm thinking differently, that RTD might be a good spot for foot traffic to have a kiosk. But be thinking about it, because that's questions we're going to be asking. Okay, done.
Well, I have a comment to follow Andrews. Does somebody else want to go in? You can. If you want.
Yeah, this is Karina. Can I just pop in real quick? I first of all, I wanted to second what Brent had said about the angle in parking, and kind of, I think it allows for people to see that it's a one-way street. So I know that you might lose some parking by doing that, but I think that the angle in does really point to the flow of traffic, which I think is really important, because we see a lot of issues with that, just in front of my own business. And then as far as the comment about the wayfinding over in that corner by the RTD, it seems a little bit like it's in a no man's land, just based on the fact that you've got West Street becoming one way to the west, and then Jackson is a two-way. If it's just specifically for pedestrian traffic, then I guess it doesn't really matter, but it just seems a little bit like it's in no man's land, whether that area gets sort of developed or not, even though you do have the riders coming up for Eldora, and you have mountainers and whatnot, but most of those people have maps on their iPhones and can figure out how they want to get around. And so I guess my opinion would be that something like that would be more useful over more towards the visitor center, which then leads me to my question: will the visitor center have wayfinding? Is it redundant to have wayfinding on the corner of North Jefferson and First if the visitor center is going to provide that? So I don't know if that's the case or not. just a question.
If I could jump in, all those are great questions, and I think that we need answers to all that and some thought put into it. And so, yeah, that's what we're going to be looking at from stakeholders is help with answering those questions. So thanks, Karina. Those are all good questions.
Great.
It's Ron Mitchell. I would like to put in my 2 cents and plead for back-end parking, and you could take the angle part. I definitely agree with everybody's view that angle parking is better because it shows clearly the way of traffic. I just like to see you move the angles 90 degrees so that people could back in around there. Again, it's totally the safety issue, and I hope you would consider it. The second thing I want to say is follow up on one comment that was alluded to, is if you're going to have wayfinding at that little area of the RTD lot, I would like to get a discussion started about what to do with the building there, the historic, highly significant historic building, and what to do with it, because to most people, it just looks like a piece of junk. And I think we need to find a use and get busy. I think it's been sitting there over 15 years, and it's got water and sewer hooked up to it, ready to go, but nobody's taken a lead on what to do with that building. And if you have a really nice wayfinding sign there and something that the general public is looking at as junk, they don't coordinate very well together. So,
Ron, one thing I could say to you about that is that the Nederland Area Historical Society owns that building. And so you could have a conversation with Kayla Evans or Danny Martin to try to advance that initiative. But they're the ones who would.
Kayla and Danny, neither one of them are on the Historical Society.
Sorry?
I think both of them have resigned from the Historic Society.
Oh, okay. I guess Jesse, I'm sorry.
Emmett Hoyle and Jesse, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Is Jesse on?
Yes.
Could we have a discussion about that offline?
Oh, and she's not on this call, Ron, so you'll want to talk to Jesse offline.
Okay, thank you.
And I will say that they have a lease on that, and the lease is up in the next couple years. So it'd be a good time to have a discussion with the Historical Society, because they'll probably want to consider renewing that lease.
This is Karina again. I actually want to jump in and make a comment just about one-way signage with these streets, just to really encourage strong, solid signage that it is a one-way street, make it really obvious, because I just not tell you how many times a day drive the wrong way down Snyder Street, and with the back parking and the combination of people driving the right, I mean, it's an absolute nightmare because the signage isn't very clear. So I think with this project, I would just really ask that solid, big one-way signage is put wherever it possibly can be placed.
Okay, yeah, that's good input, and I'll actually have a signage plan after I get through this first stage of the preliminary design. It's basically a 30% design that I submit to CDOT after I get approval from the BOT, and then they spend some time, 8-12 weeks, to review it, and during that time we could start working on a signage plan to include wayfinding.
Cool, great, thanks.
In the short term, Chris, we could just put up like roadwork signs, do not enter, one lane only, for a while, and then people get used to it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Chris, is there anything else on this topic that you wanted to cover for tonight?
No, I'm done.
Okay, great. And so if I understood right, you're at this point, you're really looking for feedback about some of those placeholders that you have within that project geography, and trying to get some feedback from all the boards probably, but in our case, the DDA, about what we might like to see in those spots. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, and, to your point about where to put the sign, that's, a discussion that you guys, will have. But if I'm going to put an area in to place the sign, now would be the time to do it. Even if you left the area empty, at least it's there so that in the future you could put a sign or a piece of art or whatever it is, or maybe just a very small piece of information where we're proposing to put the gateway sign and then something more significant somewhere else. But I just want to make that point. I just want to make sure I have a place for you to put whatever signs you want.
Great. Thank you, Chris. And Claudia and I from Wayfinding will be in touch with you offline as we're working with Merge, because they had raised the point about, ADA and other accessibility issues around signage, like how much is required, how much empty space is required around there. So we'll try to get back to you on that.
Hey, that's great.
Cool. Well, thank you for that presentation again, and it's nice to see that developing as you go on. Let's see. Now we're moving on to action item for the night, and I just wanted to ask if there was any public comment about this particular action item before we start it, and that's right turn lane on Lakeview. Just wait a minute for anybody who wants to talk. Okay, I think it sounds like nobody's needs public comment at this point. And so, Chris, I think this is yours again to present.
Yeah. So this is the Federal Highway Safety Initiative Program. And again, it's another CDOT program. And I'm looking for consensus to move forward in funding from the DDA. I had presented this project to the BOT at their last meeting and received consensus to move forward. There was some reservations on the project, however, from a couple of board members, but in the end, they did provide consensus, and I'll talk about that here in a moment. So, like I said, it's administered through CDOT, and contrary to what the name implies, the funds are actually targeting off-road, non-state owned highways. And so that's why I thought focusing on this spot on Lakeview, this might be a good opportunity for these funds. And there's $2.6 million available, which is a relatively small amount of funds. When you're talking about road projects, they grow and cost really fast. The projects that are evaluated for this particular funds is whether crash patterns can be corrected. It's really about safety of pedestrians and cars. Now, obviously, I don't really have a crash pattern here, and so I'm coming from a perspective of a preemptive project to prevent the potential for crashes in the future. So, needless to say, it may not be a really strong grant for this, but I think it's worth at least trying. And then a portion of these funds, though, are also set aside for vulnerable users, and I think a case can be made that pedestrians are vulnerable in this intersection. So again, that's why I thought that might be a good fit to at least try to go for these funds. The project I'm proposing is a right-hand turn lane, like you said, Steve, on Lakeview Drive. And this has been talked about for years. I hear about it every year. There's congestion at this intersection and why we don't do something about it. I had provided in your packet an analysis that was performed in 2018. And I've actually brought it to this board maybe last year, I forget now. But the analysis was done by CDOT at their expense to analyze the intersection for, number of cars, wait times, how long the cars back up for and how long they wait for, number of cars that go through this intersection. And based on that analysis, they provided several options and their opinions on those options. So one of those options was a right-hand turn lane. And actually, the entire option, I forget which one it was in that analysis or that study, was not only a right-hand turn lane, but also a left-hand turn lane on the highway. I'm not proposing that for this project, only because it's for a local road. I'm only proposing a right-hand turn lane only here. This is also a stated goal in your master plan. I think I cut out a page and I put it in your packet. So it has been talked about by this board and previous boards. And really as early as last meeting, you guys were talking about how to manage congestion in that intersection. And you were talking about right-hand turn lane. You were actually talking about one-way traffic and changing the flow of traffic. But nonetheless, it is a conversation that keeps coming up. And so let's see. So the funding requires a 10% match, so it's a relatively small amount of funds. CDOT would do the other 90%. And based on the cost analysis in that traffic study that's in your packet, it was I think it was 280,000 for that scenario, but that was back in 2018. And so with 2% inflation and if we were awarded these funds in 2022, and you project that 2% out, it works out to be $303,372. So, and then of course, 10% of that would be $30,337. So tonight, I'm asking for support to move forward and submit an application for this project, and also looking that you provide the match, that the DDA provides the match for these funds. And again, this would be in 2022. So if you're thinking about budgeting, really probably 2022 would be design, and then 2023 would probably actually be the project itself. So again, $30,337 would be the 10% match, and that's the action tonight. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Sure. And just to facilitate this, let me run through the group and call on people so they could ask any questions and answer. If I could start on this one, because I was thinking about it, with that traffic study that you supplied, and which some of us on the DDA have seen a couple times prior, it seems to indicate that a smaller traffic circle at that intersection would probably be the best solution as far as bang for your buck, how well it eases congestion at that corner intersection. And we also have learned over the last couple of years with CDOT that if we were to do the traffic circle and get it moving today and get in line, it could be anywhere from 5 to 7 years before we actually have that built. So my thought that I wanted to just throw out there is that if we're looking at now at a grant opportunity where the DDA needs to put up about $30,000 as a match, first of all, that's only a 10% match, so that's a great value. But also, if we were to say, it's $30,000 and this right turn lane would help ease the congestion for 5 or 6 years before we have the traffic circle, that's a cost of only $5,000 or $6,000 per year out of pocket for the DDA in order to affect a really positive change on that intersection. So, on the one hand, you can look at it that this right-hand turn lane would most likely be scrapped if we were to move forward and eventually build a traffic circle. You know, and some people might say you don't want to spend money on something that's just going to be scrapped in five to 7 years. But my point would be that if you amortize that $30,000 over 5 to 7 years, you're only paying about $5,000 or $6,000 a year for some really substantial improvement at that intersection. So I just wanted to point out that line of reasoning as an option. And then I just wanted to stress that, as Chris mentioned, the money would probably not be needed, to be requisitioned until 2022 or possibly 2023. So it leaves us time to budget for this project if the board feels that it's a good one to move forward with. So I just wanted to point out those 2 points, and I personally am in favor of this for those reasons. But if I could go down the list, and if you don't have anything much to add, please just say pass or nothing, because we're at 6 minutes after time right now. But if there's anything important to say, please speak up. Brent, maybe I could start with you.
Yeah, real quick, is that math correct, the way Steve you just described it, that it's only would cost us $30,000 and CDOT covers the rest? That was my only question. Because if so, I'm in favor of it.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks, Brent. Let's see. Rhea, if you're still on, do you have any input or questions for Chris?
I'm still here, no questions, and I'm in favor of it.
Thank you. Claudia, could we hear from you?
Can you hear me okay? I have no
Yes.
questions, and I think this is great. I would love to see it happen.
Great, thank you. Andrew Dewar.
No, I don't have any questions. I support it, especially, after you laid out amortization. So I'm in favor of it. No questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Karina, could we hear your ideas or any questions for Chris?
No, I'm in favor of it. Thanks.
Sure, thank you. Let's see, and we have Jonathan Baumhover.
Definitely in favor of this. I just wanted to thank you, Steve, for sharing that perspective. And I think that was one of the concerns brought up at the BOT was this could potentially be a waste of money. And the way I saw it was exactly as you described it. I believe we spend about almost 8,000 to 10,000 summer on flowers. And this, while I love the flowers, this seemed like a huge way to benefit the town of Nederland. So definitely in favor of this, and would love to see DDA support this request for 30,000.
Great, thank you. And Ron Mitchell.
I think it's a lot better idea than mine that I proffered at the last meeting of one weighing. So I'm in favor of it. The questions I have is, will it fit on current town right away, or would you have to have the cooperation of the adjacent property owner to the north, the motel, to obtain land to do it? And if so, would this be included in the cost that's already been presented, or would this be another cost?
I believe it fits in the right of way. If you look at that drawing in the analysis, in this particular version or option, one of the options, they realign the intersection, which does require a bit of right-of-way acquisition. But in this particular version, I'm pretty sure it fits in the right-of-way. There may still need to be some cooperation with the property owner, maybe for the sidewalk or what have you. But I think for the most part, it fits in the right-of-way.
Next question I had was, with the path from the pedestrian bridge, would there be any consideration for integrating a pedestrian crossing of some nature that doesn't conflict as much as it does now with the driveway from the shopping center out?
I think there's an opportunity to. I agree. I think maybe the crossing really should be more aligned with the kind of the sidewalk that's in front of the train cars, or not in front of the, I guess, to the east of the train cars, rather than at the curb. to the west of the train cars. It's pretty congested there. So I think there's an opportunity to make some changes there.
Great. Thank you. Then I think we've run through all the questions from our board. Before we put it to create a motion and vote, I'd like to just ask one more time if there's any public comment. Okay, seems like we don't have public comment much this evening. Could anybody make a motion for this action item?
I make a motion the DDA allocate $30,000 as a grant match for a right turn lane on Lakeview.
I second the motion.
Discussion? Discussion after the second?
Yes, I think so. Is there any discussion before the vote?
Yes. I think we should specify that it come out of the 2023 budget because we're getting very close to being maxed out here. And there might be something come up that we want to have some funds for. And so if that's the time frame when he did it, I'd like to make sure that we put it in that year's budget.
Would that be a friendly amendment?
Yes.
Will it be done faster than that is the question I would ask Chris.
Well, just a reminder that the federal fiscal year begins in July. So actually 2022 is in July. It's like right around the corner. And so 2023 would be in July of next year. So that's reasonable, I think. I think that's reasonable.
But you apply for it soon.
The end of this month. It's due January 31st. I probably wouldn't find out until May. I think sometime, or see, May, January, March, or April rather, and then so by then 2020. So I would like to go into design, but I'm not sure when I have to submit local fund. I could probably wait until 2023. I could probably borrow against the town and then get your match in 2023. So I think we could work that out one way or another.
Okay.
I think, yeah, that would be great if we could make that stipulation.
I mean, the sooner the better, however.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
All right, are we ready for a vote, or do we need to amend that?
What's the best verbiage for that then, if you're going to amend it, Jonathan? What do you think there?
It would be motion for DDA to approve $30,000 funds for grant match for the creation of a right turn lane on Lakeview out of the 2023 fiscal budget. 2023 DDA budget.
Yeah, that works.
Second that motion.
Yes.
And could we call for a vote?
Yes, we can. Chair Steve Caro,
Yes.
Board of Trustee Liaison Jonathan Baumhover,
Yes.
Rhea Ortner,
Yes.
Vice Chair Brent Jergaskis,
Yes.
Treasurer Ron Mitchell,
Yes.
Claudia Schaffler,
Yes.
Andrew DeWart,
Yes.
and Karina Lucier.
Yes.
Great, thank you, board, and thanks, Chris, for another presentation. I really appreciate all the detail you put into them, as if they're all action items.
Thanks.
All right, and our last action item here tonight is to for the board to vote and appoint one of our members as the liaison to the Envision 2030 group project. And I only received one email when I sent out to everybody on the board. I only received one reply back from someone who was interested, and that was Ron Mitchell. And I wonder if any other board members are interested. And what it was actually Barbara Hart's idea to have each member who's interested speak for 3 minutes about why they want to be on that Envision 2030 committee. And then we would take a vote on that. So I don't know if anybody else is interested, please speak up now. Barbara told me she didn't have the time.
Wasn't there only room for one of us?
Yes, and we were just going to go through a vote if there was more than one of us. Well, either way, we'll vote. But
and I wanted to clarify too, Steve, that if there was more than one, a person could choose to be just a general member and not a representative of the DDA.
That was my hope as well, Miranda. Thanks for clarifying that. It sounds like nobody else is jumping up to the plate here. Last call. All right. Well, I don't know if it is an action item, so I think we should vote on Ron Mitchell being appointed by the board to the 2030 Envision 2030 committee.
Yeah, I moved to appoint Ron Mitchell to be to represent the board for the Vision 2030.
Second that motion. Just ask for any public comment before the vote. Hearing nothing, I would say, is there any more board discussion before we vote? Okay, then I think, Hope, could you call a vote on this?
Sure. Rhea Ortner. Okay. I didn't hear.
Yes,
Karina
yes, yeah, I'm here.
Thank,
yes.
Thank you. Karina Leisure.
Yes. Yes.
Andrew
yes,
DeWart.
Yes.
Board of Trustee Liaison Jonathan Baumhover.
Yes.
Claudia Schaffler.
Yes.
Ron Mitchell.
Abstain.
Andrew DeWart.
Yes, but yes again.
Oh, I'm sorry. I get you and Jonathan confused. Brent Tregaskis.
Yes.
And Chair Steve Carroll.
Yes. Great. Well, that's a unanimous vote. And I just wanted to say, as the chair of the board, that I really think Ron will be a great appointee to that committee. I know he's very passionate about it and has a great, long history with town and has a lot of information that I think will be helpful for the committee. So I feel very good having him be our liaison. And let's see, that's any other business? I don't have any. All right, so we can someone could make a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Goodbye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Really, really great meeting.
Thanks for everyone's help.